Welcome to another episode of Halftime Adjustments. It's your host, Eddie. I am my man, G. Witt.
Tighten up, baby. Tighten up.
Tighten up, man. Week 14, another challenge, another week for these Tennessee Titans. Which team was going to show up, Grover? We were all wondering after what we saw last week and the previous weeks. Jekyll and Hyde, excuse me.
Yeah, it was just like that, man.
Right. It was just, you're exactly right. Just like that. Stumbling and bumbling. But, the Jags came into the week at 1-11. A dangerous football team, though, to say the least. They played tough in the last few outings. Had Mike Glennon now starting quarterback. Been through a couple of guys, Minshew and the rookie. And had only lost by a total of 5 points in the last 2 weeks. So you knew it was going to be a tough football game. And not to mention they have the third leading rusher in the NFL in James Robinson, which is an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, but I would say this, and defensively, I wasn't too worried about them too much. Overall, say what you want to about the Titans and their defense. They played the run fairly well. So I'll give them that. The passing, that was the only thing that scared me. But the thing that Jacksonville really had to be worried about is the fact that Derrick Henry had a bad game against the Browns. So you knew coming into this game, he was going to be doubly focused. And I think that's what we saw today. I will say this, though. The Titans do have their fair share of issues. Offensive line issues right now are starting to mount. You're starting to see the blocking not to be as crisp and as strong consistently, I should say, throughout the entirety of the game. And, of course, defensively still, we have no pass rush. And really the injuries and the depletion of the secondary, we got problems, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're making it work. We're playing. We now have our fifth straight winning season, but at the same time, going into the playoffs and everything, defensively, man, right now I'm going to say defensively we're worse off than what we were at the beginning of the season.
Wow. And you're right that to an extent you are exactly right that the defense is a lot worse than what it started off. And we talked about it early in the year if they didn't adjust these things that we were seeing on the field every week, that eventually it's going to catch up. And if they do end up making the playoffs, it could be an early exit if they don't get this defense adjusted. So, coming off an embarrassing loss last week because, quiet as it kept, that was a beatdown. That game wasn't even close, even though the score was closer than what the game indicated. Every AFC game that's left on the schedule is a playoff game because they can't afford to drop another one. You got a back-to-back weeks with the NFC North teams coming up with the Lions and the Packers. But then you got to finish up with Houston, and you cannot afford to lose that game either if you want to win a division. And so, coming into this week, some of the keys, bro, we talked about last week, they had to jump out early on the Jags. And, the defense comes up with a block field goal now. Granted, the kicker slipped, but it was a big play for the defense to get off the field.
Absolutely.
And then, the offense responds with a 3-play, 57-yard drive when A.J. Brown makes a one-handed catch on a flea flicker, 37-yard touchdown pass. And, hey, let me say this. Sidney Jones, you got mossed. Because he did, man. One-hand catch and everything.
It was amazing on that catch, too, considering the fact that Jones had his other arm. So, he couldn't get the arm up. So he ended up having to go with it with one hand. And AJ, I give him his credit, the way he ran down the field. The one thing you notice is how he kind of slowed up a little bit to help generate that space between him and the DB. And even though the DB grabbed his arm, he was still able to get his other arm up and make the catch, which I thought was pretty good. But even during that time, man, I'll be the first one to admit that first quarter, and the first part of the second quarter had me worried because I was just, offensively, we just were not clicking. We were not in a rhythm. What was going on didn't really make sense. The other thing about it was defensively, I just thought we were just a victim of, we were beneficiary of the fact that Jacksonville just made some bad mistakes.
Yeah. And I was worried too, Grover, because A team like Jacksonville, like I said, the last couple of weeks they've only lost by a total of 5 points. The longer you let them hang around, the more confidence they get. And no better thing would have liked was to beat the Titans today and possibly ruin their playoff uh, 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 potential going forward. And so,
Absolutely.
as long as they stayed around, the game is going to be tough. And like you said, I was worried when the offense was struggling that to maintain inconsistency after they had that first drive. And so, a lot of mistakes, unsuccessful on the fourth down. I don't mind the play, the go for it on fourth down, but a better play, man. You got McNichols in the game. You run a toss, off tackle handoff, a little running back. Gather yourself up. I understand them trying to catch the Jags off guard by going no huddle, but let's get a different play call there. I thought
Well,
that was a bad play call.
yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I really, in all honesty, I would have preferred for him to go for the 3 points. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure Vrabel's thinking, like, look, I got to show my defense some kind of confidence that I have in them because, again, they got trounced against the Browns, so they needed something to boost their confidence. And you saw, I will say this with the defense, you saw as the game went on, they did play stronger.
Yeah,
Malcolm Butler had his usual good
he did.
game.
Yep.
Kevin Byard finally started stepping up, making some good tackles and everything. Um, and even Ty Smith played good. I think it's, in all honesty, it speaks more to the ineptitude of Jacksonville's offense more so than it does the good play of our defense. Although there were some players who stood out overall, defensively, I just didn't. I don't know. What do you want me to say, man?
Some of the comments was just saying, to your point, if Gardner Minshew if he started the game might have been a little closer than what we saw today. And to that point, great point by Will. There were several others that said that you think about that first game, had won by a field goal with Gardner playing, and so you take that in consideration, along with how the secondary has been playing, and there's no pass rush again today.
Right.
Getting any pressure on Minshew when he came in, or Glennon for that fact either. So, a lot of things this defense has got to correct. We talk about it every week, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but because it is what it is at this point, and there's no fixes so far.
No.
Corey Davis has a big fumble on the tunnel screen that set up for him, and again, but the defense, you got to give credit. They hold the Jags to a field goal, and
Yeah.
it's not a lot of damage taken there.
Exactly. Exactly. And that was the thing about it. And again, the defense played better, but again, I go back to more so towards Jacksonville's ineptitude really. Uh, Even though the defense I thought played better, they definitely played a lot better than they did against the Browns. But again, I don't know what's going on with Jacksonville and their receivers. I will put it like this: offensively, Jacksonville looked like we did defensively last week against the Browns. They looked like they just were not into it at all. And finally, when Mishnu got in the game, they picked up a little bit of a spark and everything. But still, Jacksonville has a lot of problems, and I'm sure it's a lame duck season for them. So they're just playing just to get through the season and be done with it. But
Thank you for Trevor.
yeah, but the Titans, man, offensively, I thought we finally got going. I will say this: what you did like was the fact that they got the ball back after that field goal
Right.
from Jacksonville.
Right.
Went down the field.
Yep.
Ended up scoring a big touchdown. Defense comes out, they hold them, and then we come out and we take it right down the field with 1 second left and kick a 53-yard field goal to go in at halftime, and then get the ball back after halftime and go right down the field and score again. So you're talking about 17 points right there, and that was a huge. That really would put the game out of reach.
Right.
Just to show you how good it was. Arthur Smith was doing some pretty good play calling today too against that defense, but Jacksonville's defense is pretty much done as well.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of the talent they used to have, and they're in the rebuilding mode, if you want to say that. We said that earlier beginning of the year that they were possibly going to be rebuilding this year because they had lost a lot of talent off their defense and off the offensive side of the ball as well. And one other thing we had said coming in this week, Grover, that the defense had to continue to play. I'll say continue. Had to play more aggressive and get out the field on third down. 5 of 14, but again, you look at the offenses they were playing today. This is what they're supposed to do. And I agree with you, Dion. This is what they were supposed to against a team of this caliber. Even
Yeah.
though it was one turnover, the Butler pick, but no sacks. But see, this is the thing, Grove. And then I'll let you say what you think about this. This is why it's so frustrating with this football team, because they come out and a team like the Jags today, this is what they're supposed to do. But
Right.
then you see them come out against the Bengals, and then they lay that in. And so,
Yeah.
they actually play solid defense today. You saw some different blitzes, even though they didn't get there. They ran some different things. They got off the field and they shut down the James Robinson for only 67 yards. And that's the frustrating part about this defense.
Well, okay. Let's put all of this into perspective, because really, it really depends. I would say this: schematically, they might be okay, but as far as communication wise and guys doing their job, they're really, really struggling with all these injuries and with all these players coming in, because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And that's what you're seeing on this defense. That's why it's so helter skelter. Yeah, they can come in and beat a team like the Jags, because the Jags really don't have none. Let's just be real about it. They don't have anything. They're struggling as well. So, yeah, you come in, you hang 31 on them, and Derrick Henry could have easily had 300 yards rushing if they had kept running the ball with them. But they were trying. Smart coaching is getting them out the game without them getting hurt. That field was horrendous.
It was, man. Terrible side.
But on the defensive side of the ball, yeah, I give them credit. They did the same thing to Jacksonville that they did to the Colts. They had a lot of exotic blitzes coming from different. They disguised the blitz as well. You didn't know who was coming, so that's what you have to do. Because when you go back and look at that Colts game, you saw where Phillip Rivers didn't know where the blitz was coming from. He couldn't figure it out,
right?
And they actually had him seeing things that really was not there.
Right.
Forced them into a lot of bad throws. That's what they're going to have to do from now on. You can't play. To quote what you put out earlier, you can't play not to lose.
That's exactly what they're doing, though. Right. Right.
You just can't. If you play defense not to lose, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose.
Right.
Defense has to be played aggressively. It cannot be played soft. It cannot be played passively.
Totally.
And they're going to have to do the same thing against Matt Stafford, who's a gunslinger, and he's got some weapons out there. So they're going to do the same thing with them. To do the same thing against Green Bay, and I'm just talking about the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, let's be real about it. Offensively, we can score on anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
We've proven that.
Right.
We've proven that. We can move the ball up and down the field on anybody. We can get in the end zone on anybody.
Right.
But the bottom line is, defensively, Vrabel and them just going to be more aggressive than what they've been in some of these losses, because it's costing them.
Exactly.
It's costing them. I mean, and still, even tonight, some of the things they were doing, really, when you stop and think about the overall scheme of things, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
I mean, you got Rashad Evans back in coverage, deep on a wide receiver.
He's playing a cover 2.
Yeah.
He was playing cover 2 on that play.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these things you got to understand and know. Like I said, you got to draw some exotic blitzes. You got to figure out a way to get pressure on the quarterback, because right now, your front four can't do it. Harold Landry, right now, all he has is his outside move, no spin, no nothing. So everybody's playing him for that.
Right.
Jeffrey Simmons is coming up the middle, but again, you get double teamed. So, one guy shakes you off, you got to go against another guy. He can't get there. It's just one of those things, man, where defensively, and we said it all year, defensively, it's just they got to get creative, man. Bottom line, get creative, come up with something, put your players in better position. And players have got to start doing their jobs. Bottom line.
Right. Because, and go ahead.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I noticed something today, and I believe it to be true.
What's that?
Amani Hooker don't like to tackle, man.
He missed some tackles today, didn't
he? That's because he went to that number 33 school of tackling, man. I'm telling you. What is it? You can't tackle what you can't see.
Yeah, right. And this was probably by far the worst game for him as far as tackling goes. You're right. I agree. He missed some tackles today. Had his head down, looking at his feet, I guess, trying to make sure they were in position for him to make the tackle. But to go back to your point, we had posted earlier today about the teams the team doesn't play to win the game against the playoff echelon teams. They play more conservative, more soft. And then you get against a team like Jacksonville, even though they wasn't getting to the quarterback, they played more aggressive. And they played more aggressive against the Colts because they knew they had to come out and win that game, because if not, they would have been out of the playoffs pretty much. And so, I don't understand the concept. And I think somebody mentioned about, why is Harold Landry continue to be put in coverage? I'm not really sure. That is not his game. He is a pass rusher first, run guy second. He is not a coverage guy. So stop doing that. But like I said, the aggressive play call is mind-boggling to me, because you should play that way all the time. You should always play to win. And somebody, I think it was even Deion, said is Fisher ball. He agrees. It's just like Fisher ball, back in the day, playing not to lose, hoping to stay in the game and kick a field goal to win the game. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so, hopefully, what can you say? What else can you say, man?
There's not a lot to say. We said it at the beginning of the season. We just can't seem to get it right. In the past few years, we've had a fairly good defense, but the offense was mediocre. Right. This year, we got a good offense, and the defense is horrible.
Horrible. So, that's the word.
We can't win with this team. They can't be consistent on both sides of the ball and have a consistently good team. I'm not even asking for them to be, top 10 or anything. But if they were in the middle of the pack like they were last year, we would have clinched the playoff spot by now.
Right. You look at right.
If the defense was the way it was last year. So that's what you're looking at. And Vrabel can say whatever he want to say. We know about the injuries and all that, and things get twisted. But the purpose of a defensive coordinator is that he makes adjustments. The good ones do. Let me put it like that. The good ones make adjustments for who you have and make it work. Look at, if you saw the game today between Philly and New Orleans, look what they had to do, because they lost just about everybody in their secondary and still won the game.
But what they do? They stayed aggressive, didn't they?
Stayed aggressive.
That's right.
They stayed aggressive. So, the bottom line is you got to play every game like you played the Colts.
Yeah.
You got to play aggressive. You got to come up with some mixed up coverages and everything. And you got to start disguising things. This getting in this weak, soft zone, only going to rush forward. I'm going to play zone behind it and going to set it up like that from the beginning before the snap is called and to stay in it. You can't do that against these playoff caliber teams. You got to start disguising some stuff. And right now, think about it. Against Cleveland, they didn't disguise anything. They didn't do
anything. Deion says you're asking too much, man. You're asking too much.
I'm asking. All I'm asking is for a defensive coordinator to be a defensive coordinator. Like I said last year, there was a lot DP did that I didn't agree with, but I always yielded to his knowledge of the game is more than mine. There's a lot I disagree with this year, and I just can't give away that respect of the knowledge being there. I know they have it. Don't get me wrong. That may be wrong for me to say, but the bottom line is your defense stinks. Let's just be real about it. And like you said earlier, you may make the playoffs, but it's probably going to be an early exit.
Right. So the last key to the game, you just run, hit, and run. So you could tell, and it's not just this week, but the last few weeks, even though he couldn't get off last week because of the penetration in the backfield, but you could tell coming out how hard he was running that football. 25 carry, 215 yards. But like you said, he could have went for more, but they did the smart thing and took him out of the game. He was running great. And some of those DBs were making some very good business decisions, taking bad angles on purpose. They didn't want to have to tackle him in the open field. But, you had to like what you saw. Even the special teams played great today. Fourth down punt fake was a great call. Good block by Blasingame on the edge. Kern had 4 punts inside of 20 today. You flipping field position, getting a pin back with a subpar offense. And even Gostkowski hits a 53-yard field goal, which, if you really looked at it, you knew it was going to hit it because he was outside of 50 yards, right?
Exactly right.
He's automatic.
You had a block field goal.
Right. And you had a block field goal.
So, you give the special teams credit, but luckily there wasn't a whole lot of returns that they had to make today because bottom line is, as far as punt returns and kick returns, the blocking on the special teams unit is very subpar.
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on with them, but it's nothing like it was last year. very subpar.
Bit.
Uh, Really, it's just one of these things where this is one of these seasons. Again, going down the stretch, it's a dogfight to the finish. Indianapolis is won today, so they're
Right.
still tied with us overall record and everything. And we got to keep winning. Bottom line, we got to keep winning because we drop one, Indianapolis slides right into the top spot.
That's what I'm
We got
saying.
we got to
So
keep winning. It
there's
doesn't.
no more losses.
There's no more losses. NFC, even though we got to go against the NFC North in the next two games, you got to win them.
Right.
You got to win them because Indianapolis is not dropping anything. You got to
No.
understand it.
Exactly. But they got some tough games coming up too, and not to look at their schedule because they still got the Texans coming up next week, and that game was just a 4-point game last time, and it came down to the end. Say what you will, but it's gonna be tough. I'm telling you, it's gonna be tough. They got to go to Pittsburgh too. They got to go to Pittsburgh.
I know they got Pittsburgh, but at the same time, I would say this. Houston may be dialing it in by the time Indianapolis gets. Indianapolis plays them. Because they're like, let's just get out of this season and go home. Because right now they're in a state of flux, just like Jacksonville. Their tough game is going to be against Pittsburgh, but we still got to win. We got to beat Detroit next Sunday, and we're going to beat the Green Bay Packers. That's Saturday after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot going on, man. It's a lot going on.
It's a lot, and so just to put a bow on this, when the Titans came out this week and did exactly what they were supposed to do, beat up on a bad team, do it impressively, run the football and pose their will, which they did with Derrick Henry. AJ Brown, goes for over 100 yards again on 7 receptions. Corey Davis had a good game as well, even though he didn't have that many catches. He blocked well. You saw a lot of good blocks by Corey Davis today. I got to give him a shout out for that, man, because I think he's underrated for his blocking potential. And the defense played pretty decent today. I won't say they played the best, but they played decent. And if we could get that decent showing week after week, then why not make another run to the AFC Championship game? Yeah. I think they can, because they can have a formula of running the football and playing some pretty solid defense.
Defense played well enough to win today. Again, Vrabel not going for it on that 4th and 2 and not making it out. Again, I think he's putting his trust in his defense because he knew Jacksonville wasn't that good. So, let them get out there, let them get some confidence. And again, you saw a lot of that today. I mean, Jacksonville's receivers could not get away from the corners. And we both know our corners are not that great. So, hopefully this week we get some players back. Fulton, hopefully we get him back. Maybe Adoree Jackson. We don't know. He
practiced twice, right? Practiced back-to-back days, first time in a month.
Yeah, maybe. So, Darrington Evans, maybe. He got a hamstring. So, and how tricky those things are. You could be feeling fine and get back in there. And one wrong move, you back on the sideline again.
Right.
Offensive line wise, man, people are just going to step up, man. It's getting shaky out there. I mean, Saffo went out the game. They never said what was wrong with him. Ben Jones had to go out the game, miss a play. You see all that, and it's like, man, this is getting crazy. It's really getting crazy right now. So we just don't know what's going to happen. But we got to do some things differently in order to keep this winning. We got to keep winning. We got to win.
Got to keep winning.
That game against Cleveland last week cost us more than what people realize.
Right, and with the Lions coming up next week and the Packers out there, you got a couple of gunslingers. But Stafford, they got hurt. They think it might be a rib injury. Not really sure if he's going to play or not. So that might be a different look. But you got a team with an interim head coach coming in with and a GM that got fired. So a team that's in disarray. Got to take advantage of them at home. You got to jump out early, just like they did this week after. In the beginning of this game, jump out early, continue to run Derrick Henry, and then, use the play action to go downfield. I mean, that formula seems to work when it gets going. But most of all, you got to get off the field on 3rd down to have any success to win this football game coming up this week.
And that's going to be the main thing for them. They're getting off defensively. Offensively, I'm not too concerned about Green Bay or Detroit. Neither one of those two teams are really that great against the run.
Right.
And they're really just okay against the pass. So, I'm not looking for a lot from their defense against our offense. However, they do have we are going against two dynamic offenses, and I think that's what they're going to run into an issue. Uh, you got to play better than what you played today. You got to be more aggressive. You got to disguise more and better, and you got to create pressure on the quarterback. You got to make them uncomfortable. You can't let whoever it is. I don't care if it's Matthew Stafford or whoever they got behind them. You cannot let them sit back there and be comfortable. You got to
Right.
get pressure on them,
Right.
and you got to maintain containment because Gardner Minshew comes in and a lot of times you broke containment, even on Malcolm Butler's blitz. I'm like, dude, you don't spin with a running quarterback. Don't spin. Push your man back to the front to the quarterback, but don't spin because you spin, you putting yourself. He spun, couldn't get there, gave Gardner Minshew a lane.
Outside his rush lane. You got to
that.
stay in your rush lane.
Outside his rush lane. You can't do that. You can't do that. So, that's going to be the difference, man. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out and everything. But, we got to win these games. Bottom line, we can't falter on any of them.
Jabbar says you got to give props to David Long. He played the majority of the game. You can see him growing in his role. Yeah, I had to give him credit, man. He played a lot better today.
Yeah, but he blew some assignments too, man. And that's the thing. That's like I said. That's the thing I was talking about as far as the defensive players, what they were doing, and you saw a lot of things that just like against like we always been saying all season against better teams and better quarterbacks. You can't make those mistakes. You simply can't. He blew some coverages, man, that the ball can't end up coming behind him because he was supposed to be back playing the coverage. Again, it goes back to what I think Kevin Byard's been saying all season, just a lack of communications. And basically he's saying without really saying the guys aren't doing the job.
Exactly. And so looking at Detroit, that Adrian Peterson leads that run game. The old crafty vet is still running that pill, man. He's got over 500 yards rushing for the season. DeAndre Swift, the rookie out of Georgia, is the second leading rusher. Chase Daniels is the backup quarterback just in case Stafford doesn't play.
Okay.
And Stafford has over 3,000 yards passing. They do have a Romeo Orqua. He's got 7 sacks on the season, so got somebody who can get out after the quarterback. But Jeff Okudah, he's out for the rest of the year. You heard it's growing today, and so young team, a aggressive team, but a team that's in disarray without a head coach right now. And you got to come out and you got to be aggressive right off the bat and take advantage of the game and dominate and enforce your will on a team that pretty much got eliminated from the playoffs today. And so they have nothing to lose. Yeah. And we have everything to lose.
And you got to play. I mean, you're in playoff mode. I mean, and you can't be in playoff mode like you said, playing not to lose, because playing not to lose and play in the playoffs will get you killed every time. You can't play safe. You got to keep pushing, and you got to keep being aggressive. Like I said, your defensive line does a pretty good job against the run. That's one good thing you got to.
Did a great job today.
You can say about this team.
Yeah, they did a great job today.
Yeah, defense against the run, we do. I mean, you think about last week against Cleveland, even though they threw the ball a lot. The bottom line was we really held Nick Chubb down to 80 yards. Kareem Hunt didn't have that many yards. They only had 112 rushing yards, I think, in that game last week. Yeah. So you're talking about playing the run really well. So they're doing a good job with that. It's just passing and getting off the field on third down. Today, Jacksonville started off. They were winning on first and second down. I mean, they were having second and short, third and short for most of the first quarter and part of the second quarter, until we started getting to him and started getting a little pressure on McGlennon, and he was overthrowing guys and everything and missing them. So, we just got to wait and see on this team. It's a crying shame that they're getting ready to have the 5th consecutive winning season, and you can't even feel good about it, man. What's up with that?
Because you just don't know. You don't know which team you're gonna get out there. You don't know which defense you're gonna see. You don't know what coaching scheme you go see. And to your point though about players not making plays and being out of position, Byard again. If the ball is not thrown bad by Glennon on an interception by Butler, that's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown.
Because Byard is stepping up instead of staying back where he should have been, he steps up on the coverage and they triple team a guy instead of him staying back. He bites up on the route. So he's out of position once again, and not really sure what's going on with him, man. But that stuff's got to get ironed out. It does.
It will, and the thing you run into, man. To be totally honest about it, it's a simple thing. It's basically you got guys trying to cover for other guys and trying to make plays, and they're getting caught out of position.
Yeah.
Bottom line is they can, and I'll say this about Byard, and like I said today, I thought he probably played a little bit better than he has in a while.
He did. He played a little bit better today.
His tackling has gone south for some reason. I mean, it's gotten pretty bad with him, and I haven't figured out yet what's going on.
He's not running his feet. He's like just hitting them and then dragging them, pulling them forward for extra yards. So.
Well, he's I don't know if he's trying to save himself or what, but he's going again. I repeat and I don't know. This might be midget. With the tackling and everything, because they're breaking down to tackle people. I'm like, dude, why are you breaking down? Go tackle them. That's what I'm saying. That's the number 33
school of tackling.
School of tackling, man. Don't break down. Go make the tackle. You letting them catch the ball and they're gonna let them turn to you. It's the offensive player's advantage. You see the ball going to them, go make the tackle. And like I said, I don't know if that's what Midget is coaching them to do or what. Because you change, because it definitely isn't what Kerry Coombs had them boys tackling.
Oh yeah, they were way more aggressive.
They were way more aggressive in their tackles. Yeah. Matter of fact, the only aggressive tackler we got in the secondary right now is really Malcolm Butler.
Malcolm Butler, you got to give him his props, man. He played pretty good today. He's been playing some solid football.
Ken Vaccaro when he can get there, but I don't know what they're telling the safeties to do and the cornerbacks to do, but obviously Malcolm Butler's not listening to him because he's very aggressive with his tackling. But Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker, a lot of them, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
I want to get this on what Deion said. He says he hope and prays that what we've seen is been questioned all year, some kind of strategy by Vrabel and them to kind of hide what they got into the playoffs.
Really?
We see something different with defense.
Really?
Oh, man.
The only response I can give to that is that we know Vrabel is definitely trying to make it to the dance, to be in the playoffs. Then the question is going to be whether or not he can come up with something different in the playoffs. Because let's give credit where credit is due. Last year, Dean Pease came up with some great schemes in the playoffs, and the defense played a lot better in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. So I don't know. That's the only way I can respond to what Deion just said.
Maybe they bring Pease in for the playoffs. And they just not gonna tell nobody right now.
All I know is this: the Vrabel Bowen experiment
is done.
Needs to be over.
It's done.
And they need to hire a true DC.
Yeah, don't bring that back.
It may be time, and Vrabel may have to admit that his hire for secondary coach is not that good of a hire either. I mean, the guy coached in Houston, and Houston's secondary was never really that great. When you stop and think about it, they were not that great.
Right.
I always felt like you could throw on Houston. Running against them was always a problem, but you could throw on them if you had time. But even with that pass rush they had with J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless, that secondary was not that great. Remember, Jonathan Joseph was in that secondary, and it wasn't not that great. It wasn't that great.
Yo, boy.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to stop and look at it. And I'm like, it's going to be in the coaching evaluation because there's something that, in addition to not having a true DC, there is something going on with that defense that made them to be more passive than what they should be.
Right. And I agree with you, Deion. I think it's the coaches and the scheme, and a lot of the players are frustrated. You can see out there on the field, and they just don't want to come out and say that, of course, because they respect the the coaches enough to where they don't want to bring the air their issues out in the public. But and that brings up to my last point the Detroit game is don't out coach yourself. Don't have that cute football. Stick to your identity. Running Derrick Henry on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Don't put him in the shotgun and have him running the ball on 4th down. Don't get cute, Arthur. Just
But
stick to the game plan. This is the time of year where you run the football and dominate the game.
well, and I will say with that, I agree, but your offensive line play has got to be better.
Yeah,
And don't get me wrong, that considering what we got going on the offensive line, we're actually doing pretty good.
mm-hmm.
I'm not complaining, but it's got to be better. One of the things you ran across last week against the Browns was the fact that the Browns were winning at the line of scrimmage for pretty much the whole game. But until they backed off in the third quarter when they had such a huge lead and we were scoring so fast, but then once they had to shut us down, they stopped us.
Yeah.
So, they just won at the point of attack. And our offensive line has got to be better. And that includes everybody. Quisenberry, Sappho, Brewer, Jones and Douglas, Davis, Kelly. Everybody's got to be better. I mean, the tight ends are playing pretty good right now. That's a good thing. Receivers are obviously playing pretty good. I mean, the good thing about the Titans is that every week you got a different 100-yard receiver.
Right.
I will say this, speaking of receivers, might be time for Adam Humphries to retire.
It might be.
And the only reason I say that is because with concussions, the way he took a major concussion.
He did.
If nothing else, really, he probably should be done for the season, and hopefully can come back next year. Because with the concussions he had, that big concussion he took against Cincinnati, man, that one he won't recover from that.
Yeah, it's taking a toll on him. You hate to see that happen to him with him having to end his season early. And Taylor says, can this team get to another level for the playoffs? So far, we hadn't seen it. I don't think so, Taylor, unless they make some major improvements on the defensive side of the ball. Again, the offense can score points. They can score points to just about anybody. The defense has got to make some plays. They got to get off the field on 3rd down, in particular the 3rd and longs, the 3rd and 18s. That's what kills you. Is when they give up 3rd and more than 10 consistently. That just takes any momentum away from your defense and your offense at that fact.
Yeah, I mean, when you're not disguising your coverages, when you're allowing the offense, the quarterback, to read your coverage, and you don't make any changes, you're not disguising anything. I mean, if you're going to play a soft zone behind a 4-man rush that can't get to the quarterback,
right?
You're setting yourself up for failure, man.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're going to play the soft coverage, disguise it like you're getting ready to play man. They did that a little bit today. I mean, do something a little different, because right now, I put it like this. To answer Taylor's question, if they play the way they play defense, the way they played against the Colts, yeah, they can make some noise in the playoff.
That's a big if.
That's a big if. That's a big
if. That's 1 week, and then the next week you play like you played against the Bengals.
Yeah. So. And again, but you know how it is with the playoffs. Everything in the playoffs is without a doubt week to week. There's no tomorrow.
Right, and so that's what, and that goes to something that Jabbar just said. The Chiefs didn't turn it on their defense side of the ball to December last year, so there's still a chance. So that's what you hope. And go back to Deion's point. That's what you hope, man. Is that if they do get into the playoffs, because I'm not guaranteeing anything yet. I'm not saying they're getting the playoffs yet.
Oh no. There's no guarantee right now.
If they do get in the playoffs, then maybe, like you said, now that you're only playing week to week, you're only playing 1 week at a time. I mean. Maybe we'll see something different, more aggressive defense, and not so much rushing 4 and spying your big 300-pound defensive tackle, dropping 8 back and dropping 8 count him back in coverage. And so you saw Newhouse get to play some today, and maybe he's another body we can try to tackle, and give him some snaps, and maybe he does well. We don't know, but we see that But like you said, the offensive line is going to have to be shored up. It's going to be a lot of that is the heart and soul of the team to get that run game going. And so, but we'll see what happens, man. They got the Lions coming up at home this week, with or without Stafford. Got some running backs that can run the football. Another team that we need to jump out on early and take advantage of the situations that we get on offense, be opportunistic on defense, get off the field on third down, and shoot, maybe even get a sack or two.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're gonna set a record if we do make the playoffs for being the one for having the least amount of sacks and still make the playoffs. Right. It's just really one of those crazy things, man. And back to Jabbar's point about Kansas City turning it on, but Kansas City's defense was actually playing fairly decent up until they played against us, and we ended up coming back and again we won that game because Kansas City made a bunch of mistakes. Mm-hmm. We have got to. They're gonna have to figure out something. Being more aggressive, definitely be better tackling. Today they were aggressive in their tackling and everything. They were attacking the ball, but again, they got whoever got them thinking that you tackle with your head down, looking at the feet. You just letting players just jump over you. That's all they're doing. Every time a minor hooker comes up on them, they jump over.
That goes along with coaching. So if you're coaching that, then
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, are you going to the 33 school of tackling or what?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Taylor. Playoffs start way before the playoffs, and this is the playoffs right now. The playoffs have started already, and so
absolutely
every week is a playoff game. And at this point, like you said, if they drop another one, then the chances of making
if they drop another one, then making the playoffs is it's gonna almost out of the question.
It's going to be very, very hard to get in there
because you got to look at the teams. There's still quite a few teams with just 4 losses or 5 losses.
Yeah, and you got the Ravens and the Browns playing tomorrow night, so that's a huge football game and playoff implications. Even though we beat the Ravens, didn't beat the Browns, and so got to keep a tiebreaker scenario in favor of the Titans.
What you're hoping for is that the Ravens beat the Browns, and then we come back and we beat Detroit. Right. That's what you're hoping for. Our problem is we can't get a loss from from Indianapolis. Indianapolis' schedule is not as tough as ours is, really, when you stop and think about it. Right. So, the only tough game they got left is Pittsburgh. You were hoping the Raiders could do something today, but obviously they falling back.
They put up 44 on the Raiders today, so.
Yeah. Defense back in stride again and everything. So, man, it's just one of them crazy things right now. You don't know what's going to happen. With the way everything looks right now, Dolphins got 5 losses. What's that? Ravens got 5. Raiders right now even out of the playoffs. So you only got one team coming out of the West right now. So,
right.
I don't know, man.
We'll see what happens. But guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G. Witt across the way. The Titans win 31-10 against the Jaguars today. Another division win to move their record to 9-4. Tough game coming up against the Lions at home this week. And Deion Al said too. He said midget sucks. So that's just the bottom.
He said what?
Said the defensive back coach, midget.
Oh yeah.
He's a terrible coach.
I don't disagree with that, man. It's just bad. It's like you said though. We don't know what they're teaching. Something's not. We'll put it this, as Keith Slick used to say, something just ain't right.
Hey, I will say this though. Gro was in there, made it through the show tonight.
It actually did.
I gotta clap for that, man.
It actually did. First time in 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, you was starting to fade on me a couple times. So. Guys, again, thank you for joining us for another show. Join us next week, 7 p.m. right here next Sunday night. Hopefully it'll be another dub for the two-tone blue over the Lions, going to 10-4, and we'll see, man. Every week's a playoff game from here on out, and hopefully we'll see a defense that showed up today, show up next week, but in a better fashion. So, hey down there, G. Witt, join us next Sunday night live, 7 p.m. right here on Halftime Adjustments. Peace.